In this video, we'll talk about pawn majority. To be more specific, queenside pawn majority. Is this really an important thing to learn? Well, owning a pawn majority means you have more pawns in a specific area of the board than your opponent does. This sounds great, but the downside is that your opponent has his own majority too, lurking, waiting, lusting to advance. So, is one majority better than another? Some point to the pawns living on the queenside. Indeed, a lot of noise has been made about the mighty queenside pawn majority. Is a queenside majority really better than a central or kingside majority? If so, what's the logic behind its great power? These epic questions will be answered as we progress. First, let us look at queenside majority versus kingside majority. The queenside pawn majority is usually superior to a kingside majority simply because the kings, more often than not, are both castled in the kingside. This means that when an endgame arrives, the pass pawn created by the queenside majority, known as an outside pass pawn, will further away from the kings, and as a result, will be more of a threat to promote. In this position, white's queenside majority here, we have 2 pawns here for white and 1 pawn for black, produces a pass pawn that is impossible for black to stop. The best move for white here is b5. The pass pawn that black can create on e4, a counterplay, an attempt to create his own pass pawn, is good for nothing and can't do anything here because white can just continue with b6. If e3 is played, b7, e2, and then we have king f2 stopping this promotion here. If he captures first with this a takes b5, a takes b5, and e4, it's going to be the same story here. And we have king f2, and we're stopping this promotion again. On the other side of the pendulum, if both sides had castled queenside, then the kingside majority would be superior to a majority pawns of the queenside. Now, the thing is, a queenside majority will point to something that is more of advantage for that side of the board, especially here in this position for white, because the kings are in this side of the board and this black king cannot catch up in this side. But white's king is already protecting this zone for black's counterplay. So that is a very important thing to consider. Here in this another endgame, notice how white brilliantly finishes black. There is already a huge advantage for white in the queenside. This time we have 3 pawns versus 2. And it looks like black's king cannot catch up again. The move c5 here seals the win for white. If black captures with a free pawn, this obviously has cost white a sprinting a pawn here, and it will be advancing and reaching the finish line and promote. If b5 is played here, there are 2 ways to win. Either still advance this a pawn there, or a simple capture. We'll have the c pawn sprinting again to promote. King f6 can't stop that pawn, and we have a queen there. Okay. Now, in this position, we have minor pieces in the endgame. There are pawns on both sides of the board. This should have been a plus for a bishop since it's got the ability to oversee long range. But white realizes that he does not want any counterplay for black. So first, he needs to take the bishop down. And he knows that the queenside pawn majority that he already has is more than enough for a win. So, knight takes g7, king takes g7, and again, b5. And black's king is too slow for this. His e5 attempt is also not enough for counterplay because white's king is already guarding this area here. b6, e3, b7, e2, and we have king f2, the same as in the previous example, and this is going to be a win for white. Now, let us go over to queenside majority versus central majority. Listen, in an endgame, the queenside majority is generally better than a central majority. However, in the middle game, the central majority is considered to be more valuable because these pawns grab space in the most important area of the board, the center. In this position here, white is seen to be going into that direction of queenside pawn majority. He's got 3 pawns here versus 2 pawns for black. But wait, this is still in the middle game. Before that endgame happens, black can get his central majority rolling by e5. And that could be followed by f5 here. For example, white replies h3, and we have f5. The central pawn roller is considerably more threatening than white's queenside sleepers. These guys are still sleeping. We're still in the middle game. Okay, this queenside advantage or majority here is not yet ripe to be real threat for black at the moment this time. Here, the endgame is already at hand. White has queenside majority. We have 2 pawns versus black's single pawn. But black in the central squares here has 2 pawns for white's single pawn or 1 pawn. Now, b4 here, if white to play, is already too powerful and will be a great advantage for white. Now, this is too powerful for black because if king f6 is played here, alright, this is too late for black because we can play a5. If pawn takes, king e6, a6, king d7, a7, king c7, too late for black. We have a queen for white, right? Let me go back. Okay, so if f5 is played here, we can actually ignore this pawn here, this f5 move for black. We can just continue. If he takes this pawn, f takes e4, we can just play a6. If e3, we can just play king g2, and we can just catch this pawn because our king is near into this area of the board to stop this promoting pawn.
Hey, check this video out to make sure that you get more important information to bring your chess to the next level.